Hi guys, I hope you guys are home and I hope you guys are safe. It's quarantine time and I've brought to you some quarantine content. Today we're going to talk about the impact of coronavirus on the electric vehicle industry, not just India but globally. China is where the coronavirus originally initiated. It came out of a market in Wuhan. Obviously, we're all aware of what has happened ever since. The virus has been traveling globally, and it has disrupted a number of supply chains. So the idea that vehicles or electric vehicles, a lot of supply chains moving out of China are impacted, and today in this video I'm going to discuss that impact on the electric vehicle industry, on Tesla, on India, on the Indian EV scene, and what it's going to mean for the times to come. Before I talk about the electric vehicle industry in India, let's get some context. So, before the coronavirus related lockdowns and the subsequent dip in the overall economy, we were heading into the BS6 phase. So, a lot of BS4 vehicles were supposed to be sold out. A lot of vehicles could not be registered after the 31st of March. However, the deadline now is extended for some dealers for up to 10% of their stock. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter, and it's not going to help them get a lot of stock of their books once this ends. So, in terms of the scenario, it was already grim. In India, the auto industry has had 7 consecutive quarters of losing sales, losing value. There was a slight uptick where people expected BS4 cars to be available at a very low price, but because of the coronavirus, lockdowns were imposed, and the last month to 45 days were wasted as nobody went out to buy the cars. So, the industry already was in a space that was troubling, and moving forward, big companies had put big bets on the electric vehicle industry, hoping that 2020 is going to be the year, right? And with everything happening, that might not be the case, because there is a good chance that after the lockdowns are moved out and people are allowed to move, luxury spending is going to be at a minimum. People are going to look for cost effective ways of getting things done. People are going to try to save, get an insurance policy, try to live lives differently, because this, as an event, the coronavirus has changed the way things are happening. Globally, a lot of the plants are already shut. Ford, GM, Tesla, most of the European manufacturers are non-manufacturing. The plants are shut. People are sent home. Putting all of those things together, Europe is hit, America is hit, and the Indian manufacturers, mainly Tata and Mahindra, are also contributing to the entire fight. I mean, if an automaker is helping with ventilators, it's great, but they're still an automaker, and that's where most of their revenue will and should come from. So I do think that the entire industry has been pushed into a corner. There is no GST relaxation that was expected. So all of these things put together, the international scenario with electric vehicles, and 2020 being the year for electric vehicles, is now may not be the case. The spending on sides of the government for subsidies and building the infrastructure, etc., might go more towards the direction of necessary health spending. So a lot of kind of green initiatives or government grants or the FAME 2 policy, the budgets are going to be strained because the government has other things on their agenda that are more life threatening and more important at this stage. So, putting this together, the grim scenario of the industry, coronavirus or no, and the global troubles due to the coronavirus, disruption in supply chains, what happens when you can't get motors and batteries in China, you can't make cars. And uh, the sad part is that no OEM till date was working towards getting an opportunity to build their own supply chain independent of China. So, uh, with an attempt to keep development costs low, not going to build a vehicle from the ground up, lot of OEMs just chose to import from China, and the trade war was already trouble. And now with the coronavirus, the distribution systems, the global supply chain is disrupted to an extent that is going to be very difficult to build vehicles in other countries but China. So now coming to the most important part, what's going to happen to the EV industry in India? I believe that things are going to change. So with a lot of investment flowing in, the space had grown to an extent that there were a lot of EV companies coming up. Some people trying to build from the ground up, and some people trying to import the vehicles from China and simply market them. So, talking about both of these industries separately, firstly, the people who are importing the vehicles from China and just kind of selling them, they are screwed, because the reason why they're screwed is the vehicles are not going to come in that easily. The cost of moving those vehicles is going to be higher, and there is also the anti-China wave among the consumers. So customers could be marketed away from buying these products because of their origin. We have seen this happen before, and I strongly believe that this is going to be another time when an anti-China wave would be created. On the other hand, if we talk about the companies that are trying to do development in India and develop their products from scratch, and these companies are raising a lot of money, and you need a lot of money to be able to develop the industry from the ground up, and that money might slow down. So companies who have pulled in enough money to survive, talk about the ethers, ultraviolets, etc. Companies that have the money to be able to survive, I think, are going to end up doing much better. And the companies that are out to raise funds are going to close down, and that is the fact. So if the company, we know a lot of startups, a lot of my friends also are working in the space, and if there is no, I don't see new investment coming in. So if the founder hasn't acquired enough money to be able to weather the storm, or be able to build a profitable revenue based business out of this situation, a lot of companies are going to close down. uh, Also, the electric vehicle industry already had a manpower shortage issue. So we don't have the necessary skilled or educated manpower. And with some of the big companies also firing a lot of staff, there might be a chance of a lot of people to move into the smaller companies. Something like what happened after the 2008 crisis, where a lot of the new tech companies got the gray hair in the room, the people with experience and expertise who were told to leave by the big companies who had to cut jobs, and therefore a new wave of innovation. Uber, I mean, there are a lot of companies that came up after the 2008 crisis. So putting these two things together, uh, the situation is going to be much more positive for a few people who are not dependent on China, who have the money to survive, or can build a profitable business out of what they already have. And the people who are relying on importing and stuff from China and just assembling it, they are going to have trouble. people who are traders, so who are just importing battery packs, motors from China, and these retail them. They are going to have a lot of issues. And companies that don't have a good brand. So we know a lot of I don't want to take names, but there are a lot of companies who are just importing the vehicles from China and calling them made in India, and they are in bad shape because now the people that they relied on for supply, um there is no supply, right? And everything is going to be more expensive. So since they don't have control over the price, we might even see the price of some so-called made in Indian but imported electric vehicles go up. And um, I'm really excited to see how these companies are be able to weather this storm. They might just throw some money at the problem, but that is not kind of the way it would work out in the long run. So hoping you guys really got an overview from my side about the electric vehicle industry. If you have any questions, let me know. I actually made this video because a lot of people asked me about what I think is going to happen in the electric vehicle space. So thank you. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Subscribe to this channel if you want some interesting electric vehicle content. And ciao.